The message came at 12:17 a.m., quiet and ordinary, the kind of message that should have meant nothing. Elias was still awake, sitting on the edge of his bed, shoes on, jacket half off, mind replaying the meeting from earlier that evening. When his phone vibrated, he almost ignored it. Nothing had ever arrived after midnight. He read the message once. Then again. They've decided to move forward without you. I'm sorry. No greeting, no explanation. Just a clean sentence. Signed with the name Marcus Halle. For a moment, Elias thought it was a mistake. His thumb hovered over the screen, waiting for a follow-up message that never came. He stood up, walked to the window and stared at the city lights below. Cars moved like nothing had changed. Somewhere people were laughing. Somewhere else, someone was sleeping peacefully. The world did not pause for betrayal. 7 years. That was how long it had taken to build everything that now slipped from his hands in a single message. Elias remembered the beginning clearly. A cramped apartment, cheap coffee, and an idea everyone else had called unrealistic. Marcus had been the first to believe in it, or at least the first to say he did. They had shaken hands over nothing more than trust and ambition. Back then, loyalty felt permanent. The company grew fast, faster than Elias ever expected. Long days turned into longer nights. He missed family gatherings, ignored his health, and poured every part of himself into the work. Marcus handled meetings, smiled for investors, and spoke confidently about the future. Elias built the foundation. He solved problems. He kept things alive when money was low, and hope was thinner. Now, apparently he was no longer needed. His chest felt tight, but he didn't cry. Not yet. His mind moved quickly, jumping from memory to memory, searching for a warning he might have missed. Had Marcus avoided eye contact lately? Had meetings ended too quickly? Had decisions been made without him? Yes, all of it. Elias sat down heavily, the phone still glowing in his hand. He typed a reply, erased it, typed again, erased it once more. What could he say? Ask why? Demand answers? Beg? None of it would change what had already happened. The betrayal wasn't loud. That was what hurt the most. No argument. No confrontation. Just removal. By morning, the message had spread. Emails followed. Polite ones. Professional ones. Words like restructuring, growth, and best interests filled his inbox. Not one of them mentioned sacrifice. Not one of them mentioned loyalty. He went into the office anyway. People avoided his eyes. Some nodded awkwardly. Others pretended to be busy. His nameplate was already gone from the door. That small detail hit him harder than he expected. It was proof that this decision had not been sudden. It had been planned. While he worked, others had prepared his exit. Marcus was in the conference room when Elias arrived. He stood when he saw him, face calm, voice steady. I wanted to talk. Marcus said. Elias listened. That was all he did. He listened as Marcus explained the board's concerns, the pressure from investors, the need for a different direction. Marcus spoke like someone reading from a script he had practiced many times. You're too attached, Marcus added. Carefully. This is business, you know that. Business. Elias nodded once. He didn't argue. He didn't shout. He simply felt something settle deep inside him, heavy and cold. This was not a misunderstanding. This was a choice. As he packed his office, he touched the old notebook where the first ideas were written. The coffee mug Marcus had gifted him on their first anniversary. Small things that now felt like proof of a past that no longer mattered. When Elias left the building, the doors closed behind him without ceremony. No applause. No farewell speech. Just silence. That night, he didn't go home right away. He walked through the city, letting the noise surround him. His thoughts moved fast. Too fast. Anger rose, sharp and clear. Not wild, not reckless. Focused. He thought of the meetings where Marcus had promised transparency. The conversations about trust. The shared jokes about how success would never change them. It had changed one of them. At home, Elias opened his laptop. Not to plead. Not to complain. He opened files. Contracts. Emails. Agreements he had once skimmed through because trust had made details feel unnecessary. Now, details mattered. He noticed things he hadn't before. Clauses that protected him. Decisions that required his approval. Moves Marcus had made quietly, assuming Elias would never challenge them. The anger shifted into something sharper. Elias realized that Marcus hadn't just removed him. He had underestimated him. Sleep didn't come easily. Every time Elias closed his eyes, memories returned. The early days. The promises. The belief that loyalty was mutual. Each memory now carried a new meaning. Darker than before. By morning, the sadness was still there, but it was no longer alone. It shared space with determination. Elias wasn't thinking about revenge yet. Not in clear terms. But he knew one thing with certainty. He would not disappear quietly. Marcus went on with his day as planned. Meetings, calls, congratulations from the board. Outwardly, everything looked successful. Inside, something felt wrong. He checked his phone more than usual, half expecting a message from Elias. Anger. Accusations. Anything. There was nothing. That silence made him uneasy. Marcus told himself he had done the right thing. The company needed a strong face. Elias was too emotional, too attached to ideas instead of outcomes. This decision ensured survival. Still, when Marcus passed Elias's empty office, he slowed his step. Elias, meanwhile, sat alone in his apartment, watching the sunrise. The city looked different now. Not hostile, just honest. It didn't promise fairness. It only rewarded awareness. He opened a new notebook and wrote a single line. Know the truth. Decide what it's worth. This was not the beginning of revenge. It was the beginning of understanding. Elias knew the road ahead would not be simple. He felt the pull between justice and anger, between walking away and standing his ground. He didn't know yet what choice he would make. But he knew one thing, for certain. The betrayal had changed him, and whatever came next would not be driven by impulse, but by intention. Elias did not disappear after leaving the company. He made sure of that. In the weeks that followed, his name still moved quietly through the same circles, spoken with respect, sometimes with curiosity. He kept his routine strict. He woke early, ran long distances, and filled his days with research instead of regret. Anger stayed with him, but it no longer burned. It sharpened. He replayed the past with new eyes. Meetings that once felt friendly now revealed hidden tension. Decisions Marcus had rushed suddenly made sense. Elias realized the betrayal had not happened overnight. Marcus had wanted control. Elias had trusted too much. At night, Elias studied documents he had saved over the years. Old emails, signed agreements, notes from early investor talks. He wasn't searching for damage. He was searching for leverage, not to destroy, but to balance the weight of what had been taken from him. Each discovery felt like adding another piece to a quiet puzzle. Still, doubt followed him. There were moments when Elias questioned himself. He would stare at the screen and wonder if this path would turn him into someone he didn't recognize. He remembered who he had been before the company. Before success had complicated everything. He had believed in building things, not tearing them apart. But then another memory would surface. Marcus standing beside him, promising honesty. Marcus smiling while planning his removal. Those thoughts pulled Elias back into focus. Meanwhile, Marcus felt the shift even if he couldn't explain it. Former clients reached out to him directly, ignoring Marcus entirely. The company grew, but the growth felt unsteady, like a structure built too quickly. Marcus told himself this was temporary. He moved deeper. He met with old contacts, casually at first. Coffee conversations. Short lunches. He listened more than he spoke. People trusted him. They always had. And in their words, Elias began to see how fragile Marcus's position truly was. Confidence on the surface. Cracks underneath. Elias learned that Marcus had promised too much. Growth targets that were unrealistic. Partnerships that depended on trust rather than proof. The same trust Marcus had broken. The thought of revenge became clearer. Elias could expose these weaknesses. He could step back into the spotlight and let the truth speak for itself. He could take back what had been stolen, not through force, but through precision. Yet every plan came with a cost. Late one evening, Elias sat alone, the city quiet outside his window. He imagined the moment clearly. The surprise on Marcus's face, the bored's shock, the satisfaction that would follow. He expected to feel relief just thinking about it. Instead, he felt tired. Across town, Marcus sat in his office long after everyone else had left. He stared at the skyline, replaying his last conversation with Elias. The calm in Elias's voice unsettled him. Marcus had expected anger. Silence was worse. He justified his actions repeatedly. The company needed a leader who could make hard choices. Elias was too idealistic. Marcus told himself he had done Elias a favor by cutting him loose early. Still, when Marcus saw Elias's name mentioned in a business article, something tightened in his chest. Elias was respected, trusted. That had not changed. Elias felt the pull of two paths. One led to confrontation and control. The other led to distance and healing. Neither felt easy. Revenge promised justice but risked turning the past into his future. Walking away promised peace but felt like surrender. The struggle became internal. Elias wasn't fighting Marcus anymore. He was fighting himself. He thought about why the betrayal hurt so deeply. It wasn't just the loss of position or money. It was the loss of belief. Belief in partnership. Belief that shared struggle meant shared loyalty. That wound ran deeper than any contract violation. As days passed, Elias refined his plan, even as he questioned it. He knew exactly how to expose the truth. He knew when to speak and who would listen. Everything was ready. What he didn't know was whether he wanted to finish it. One afternoon, Elias received a message from an old employee. Someone who had left the company shortly after Elias did. They thanked him for the opportunity he had once given them. They said they were building something new, something honest. The message stayed with him. That night, Elias realized the conflict was no longer about Marcus. It was about identity. Who would he become if revenge defined his next step? Marcus, on the other hand, began to feel cornered by his own decisions. The pressure from the board increased. Questions grew sharper. The company's image relied heavily on confidence, and Marcus felt his slipping. He considered reaching out to Elias, apologizing, explaining, but pride stopped him. Admitting guilt would mean admitting he had been wrong. Both men stood at opposite ends of the same bridge, each convinced the other should make the first move. As Elias prepared for the final stage of his plan, his emotions settled into something steady. Not anger, not fear. Awareness. He understood the weight of what he was about to do. This was the moment where planning would turn into action. And whatever choice he made next would define more than the outcome of a conflict. It would define the kind of man he chose to be. The day arrived quietly, almost ordinary, which made it feel heavier. Elias woke before sunrise, not from worry but from clarity. His plan was complete. Every detail had been checked. All that remained was the choice to act. He dressed carefully, not to impress, but to feel grounded. The file rested in his bag, thin but powerful. It held proof, not accusations. Facts, not emotion. Enough to shift power in a single room. The investor meeting was held in a glass building overlooking the city. Elias arrived early. He sat alone in the lobby, watching people move past him, each unaware of the decision forming in his mind. His pulse was steady. That surprised him. When Marcus entered the building, their eyes met for the first time in weeks. Marcus paused just for a moment. Elias gave a small nod. Nothing more. Inside the meeting room, the atmosphere felt tense beneath the polite greetings. Investors spoke in calm voices, but their questions carried weight. Growth, stability, leadership. Marcus answered confidently, as always, but his hands tightened on the table when certain names were mentioned. Elias listened. This was his moment. He knew exactly when to speak, when to open the file, when to let the truth unfold. As the meeting moved forward, Elias felt the final pull of anger try to rise. He remembered the late nights, the promises, the message that ended everything. The injustice of it all pressed against his chest. Then something else surfaced. He saw Marcus not as an enemy, but as a man trapped by his own choices. A man who believed control was safety. Elias understood that fear. He had felt it once too. When the room turned to Elias, silence followed. Everyone waited. Elias stood slowly. He placed his bag on the table. The file was inches from his hand. This was the edge. He looked around the room and spoke calmly. He didn't accuse. He didn't expose. He spoke about trust, about how companies are built by people who believe in one another, about how ambition without integrity creates success that cannot last. Marcus watched him, confused, then tense. He declined any role. He thanked the investors for their time and wished them success. The room fell into stunned silence. Marcus felt his breath catch. This was not what he had prepared for. Relief mixed with confusion. Elias could have ended him. Everyone in the room knew it. Elias sat back down, his heart racing now, not from fear, but from release. The meeting ended soon after. Conversations were short, polite, uncertain. As people left, Marcus approached Elias. His voice was low. "You had something," Marcus said. "Yes," Elias replied. "Why didn't you use it?" Elias looked at him steadily. Marcus had no answer. Elias walked out of the building feeling lighter than he had in months. The city air felt different, clearer. The days that followed were strange. Elias expected regret. He expected the anger to return. Instead, he felt space. For the first time since the betrayal, his thoughts were not tied to Marcus or the company. He started something new, smaller, more intentional. He chose partners carefully. He asked hard questions. He valued transparency over speed. Marcus struggled. In a different way, Elias's restraint haunted him. The company survived, but doubt followed Marcus everywhere. He had won the position, but lost certainty. Months later, Elias and no words were exchanged, just a brief acknowledgement, enough to confirm that both understood what had happened. Elias realized that revenge had promised closure but delivered chains. Letting go had not erased the pain, but it had stopped it from shaping his future. He understood now that justice is not always about taking something back. Sometimes it is about choosing not to carry the weight forward. The betrayal remained part of his story, but it was no longer the ending. And in that decision, Elias found something stronger than revenge. He found peace.